You're in the rant hole where I rant about whatever my $15 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You could get a rant by becoming one of those people. Today's comes from Ryan Hard, I think, Horde, who says to rant about anime being used as advertisement for other mediums. Now, I don't know how widespread this knowledge is, but most anime adaptations are just advertisements. When an anime adaptation of a manga gets made, it is usually partially funded by the publisher of the manga with the expectation that it will drive more readers to that manga. Now, the reason this makes sense is that in Japan, the manga market is extremely competitive because there is a fuckload of manga. There is way more manga than there is anime by a, probably exponential number. There is just shitloads of manga coming out, and it appeals to all demographics, all types of people. And if you've got a manga that is maybe doing pretty good, but you're thinking, can we take this to the next level? Can we make this an even bigger success? You might say, let's make an anime adaptation, and this will, it'll be broadcast on TV, and it sort of rises above the crop, because if there's 1 million manga for people to pay attention to, then even if you've got something that's fairly popular with a certain crowd that you think could be popular with a much bigger crowd, but how the fuck are they going to find it when there's so much to look at? Well, if you're talking about anime, there might be 65 of them every season, but that's a much smaller pool of what you gotta look out for, and it's being broadcast right on TV. People don't have to buy anything. They don't have to buy your magazine. They don't have to buy the manga volumes in the store in order to find out what it's about. It can just come on TV, and they go, I'll give this a shot. It looks interesting. And then they go, wow, I want to see more of that. I will go and read the manga. Now, some of these are, very hyper condensed so that they can tell a complete story in the anime, or they, even if they're not condensed, if they tell the entire story of the manga, it's probably because they think that they can also make a profit off of the anime. They're not thinking of it as just an ad. They're thinking, okay, well, this will be a successful TV show, and then we can sell the Blu-rays, and maybe we can bring it to the US, and manga that sells well in the US is usually shit that has a successful anime adaptation. If you look at the stats of what manga are selling in the US, it's never at the top of the charts as something that's never had an anime adaptation. So if they want to make this manga pop as hard as they can while also making the anime pop, they try to make it a good anime. But most anime that are manga adaptations, if the manga is still running, which is way more of an incentive for them to, to try and do this. Sure, a completed manga, you're still selling it, so, it's not as though you're not going to get any extra sales to the manga by making an adaptation, but if it's still running, you are much more incentivized, and those anime tend to just have no ending. And it pisses a lot of people off, because a lot of people, like me, were really just anime fans. And while we do appreciate manga, and sometimes we'll go and try to read the rest of it, I just want to watch anime because I really love anime as a medium. I still like manga, but not nearly as much. I come to anime because it is a type of film that I am sort of a buff for. I love to see the colors and the animation and timing and sound effects and voice acting and all that other shit. I'm a big fan of all that. And I will acknowledge that a lot of anime adaptations are worse than their manga counterparts because they are not done as well. And when you have all those extra elements, sure, that's a lot of things that could make it better, but it's also a lot of new ways you can fuck up. And most anime will drop the ball in some regard. So, I do think that it's not as though I always favor the anime over the manga, but if you give me a great anime adaptation of a manga, I will always be more excited about the anime than I am about the manga, no matter how good it is. If the anime adaptation mega sucks and the manga is great, I'm not necessarily going to be super excited about the manga because I just am not as interested in manga as a medium. So, that's a kind of dramatic push and pull that you get into if you are an anime fan who doesn't care about manga, but in Japan, manga is a much bigger deal than anime. Anime is, there's originals and stuff that is aimed directly at people who like anime, but most of it is there to advertise a manga, and it's very transparent when you see it happening. And honestly, there are a lot of anime that I'll find myself dropping relatively early on because I can tell it's not going to go anywhere. When I start up a 12-episode romantic comedy and I get to episode 3 and not much has happened yet, even if I really like the characters and I like the kind of way the story is going, if I see that there's only 12 episodes and the manga has 10 volumes and is still ongoing, I'm just going to be like, this isn't even worth the heartache. I'm not going to go read the manga. And sometimes you can't. I mean, I like to read physical copies, so I would prefer to then go and buy it, in America, but it's a much bigger investment monetarily, because with anime, again, the point of it is partially that you can watch it for free and then decide if you want to go buy something. So, I think this is probably an effective system. It is a little bit sad that this can fuck some manga, because a lot of the time, if they make an anime adaptation and it doesn't drive sales to the manga and the anime doesn't perform well, the manga can get canceled because they were basically like, this is either this is going to blow up bigger or we're cutting it. And so when that happens and stuff gets cut, it can be especially unfortunate if the anime sucked. Like, a lot of the times that happens because the anime wasn't a good ad for the manga. So that's really sad and unfortunate when things like that happen, but I'm sure that there are also a lot of anime that do boost the manga and keep it alive going forward into the future. And, it's always exciting when an anime adaptation is good and then comes back, when you get a manga that, that's ongoing and they keep making more seasons of it because it continues to be successful, or if they take one that's already over and really do a great job of adapting it, it really just comes down to if it's good or bad. I don't mind anime existing as ads for manga, but, more often than not, if it's something that made more sense as a manga and then gets brought to anime just to sell the manga and it doesn't really function that well as an anime, I will probably just lose. I'll probably have no interest in it at all. It's not like I'm going to go read the manga just because the anime, because I kind of liked the show but it doesn't go anywhere. Again, I get excited for good anime, not so much for good manga. But that's just me personally as an anime baby. So, there's your rant.